How important is it to build a relationship? Is trust really important when building your relationship? You want to learn to trust people. And you are building relationships to build that rapport with people. And especially with the people that you're trying to get to know or you already know. In college, that's the time that you build those relationships. You're fresh out of high school or you are going back to school because you want another opportunity to do better. And you surround yourself with people that are doing the same things you're doing, right? That are on the same level that you are at. And you surround yourself with people that you inspire to be and what you want to do with your life. Being a teacher and being a mentor is important. Is an important relationship building aspect. Those teachers and mentors didn't become teachers and mentors just overnight. They built those relationships with people to get to where they are. They built that rapport with people to be able to have their name spoke in places that they didn't expect to be. And how do you know that you won't build a simple and fantastic relationship just by saying hello? Being a first grade English teacher, the biggest job that I have is to make sure that my students not only do their best, but are able to articulate their thoughts and possibly build those relationships, right? As a teacher, my job is to have you do a few things. Gather information, be able to annotate that information and take notes, and then also articulate not only the information that you gather, but those thoughts in your brain and put it down on paper. And you put all that together and guess what you got? A paragraph, right? That's a paragraph, right? You take time to delegate your task and articulate those thoughts, gather that information, and then write it down. Building relationships is like a paragraph. You gather that information about the person that you are building that rapport with. So you can talk to them about things that you have in common with them. You annotate those notes in your memory, in your brain. You use your brain to take down mental notes about things that they like, things that they dislike, things that they are inspiring to be, and where they want to be in life. And then you articulate those thoughts through conversation. And then guess what? You've built that relationship, right? You've built that relationship. So you're probably thinking, like, how do I do that? How am I doing that as a first grade ELA teacher? How am I doing that as a teacher in general? Well, I will say that the job that I work at is a very diverse job. And my job is about, I'll say 60% of my students are Spanish-speaking students. What does that look like? That means English is not their first language. Spanish is. It's silly to think of it, but it's silly to think of this now. But the way that I build those relationships with my students is taking Spanish classes. I haven't taken a Spanish class since, high school? And taking those Spanish classes on my phone for 3 minutes a night builds that relationship with my students because I'm able to take that information that I've learned and articulate a conversation with my kids. Now, do they think it's funny? Yeah, because Miss D sometimes still messes up her words. But they're able to correct me right there on the spot. I'm able to get a lesson about rolling my R's or pronunciating a certain word the correct way so that it doesn't sound like you're saying something else, right? I've built that relationship with my students and we're able to do that. And they like it. Of course, I ask them first if it's okay if I can practice my Spanish because you never want to offend them or their culture just by me being a diverse woman. I don't want to mess my relationship up by just going out and just speaking Spanish when, again, Spanish is not my first language, English is. So of course I ask my students, hey, is it okay if I practice my Spanish with you? And they're like, yeah, sure, that's great. That's building that relationship with them, because they're like, at least she's taking the time. My teacher is taking the time to not only get to know who I am, but get to know my culture. And we have this now memory that we've gathered together as us learning. I'm teaching them English and they're teaching me Spanish. I read a wonderful article about a girl. Her name is Katrina. She's a very young girl who just moved to the United States from her home country. She's an immigrant, and she was starting a new school. Katrina didn't speak any English, neither did her mother and grandmother. They were seamstress, actually. And her principal, Dr. Broken, was able to meet not only with Katrina, but with her family, and just let her know that you are accepted here. We will do everything in our power to have not only you transition to the United States comfortably, but also have Katrina transition into her new space comfortably. So Katrina was able to bring in clothes and toys about her home country. And students learn through play. Students learn through touch. Students learn through actions. So they were able to take that time and learn about Katrina just by simply bringing in things from her home country. And like I said, students are, they learn through touch, they learn through play, they learn through just simple conversation. Now again, like I said, Katrina doesn't speak any English, but she does know how to play. Katrina doesn't know how to articulate her words, but she can act it out. Look at that relationship that Katrina is building, not only with her classmates, but with her teacher. And that is how and why relationship building is so important. I also looked up a really interesting insert from a journal, from the International Journal of Advanced Corporate Learning. And two things that really stuck out to me with this was working on memory and teacher presence, right? So the journal talks about how our memory helps us focus on what is appropriate at the time, being able to organize our words and our thoughts, and being able to mend what we've learned in the past to what we're currently learning in the future. And also, like I said, having that teacher presence there. So me being a teacher, especially trying to teach adult learners or just being in an adult learning space, being able to articulate conversations about experiences that my other adult learners have had, and being able to come together and have a conversation about that, and then going back to having your teacher there to help support you with that is big. I really enjoy with my class now that we're able to have these discussions about anything. If it's about the discussion post, we're able to add in our own opinions and things, and then we have our teacher support, which is really great. That our teacher not only chimes in on how we are feeling, but she also articulates her own past experiences and applies it to our discussion posts. So that's really great that we have that teacher support as well. I'm very big on observing. Like I said, I'm a teacher. All I do is observe all day. I observe students 5 days a week, at least for 8 hours a day. And you're able to learn a lot about a person just through observations itself. You're able to see how they learn, how they write, how they read, how they're able to retain information. One of the things, I have a student that loves to doodle. As much as I don't like him doodling because I feel like he's not paying attention, really, that's how he pays attention. He pays attention by drawing out whatever I'm saying. So of course I'll go back to the student and say, hey, what did I just say? Well, they'll look down at that picture and say, well, you said blah, 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 blah. Well, look, and I'm like, oh, wow, what a beautiful doodle. I don't want you doodling right now, we're in class, but beside the fact. That's how he learns. I've built that relationship to see that the way that you learn is how you doodle. I even asked his parent, does he doodle a lot? Did he doodle a lot in his previous school? Well, yeah, that's how he remembered his information. Look at that. I've just built another relationship. So when it's time for us to do those drawing activities, especially when it comes to writing our information in informative paragraphs, my student will doodle first. He will draw out his paragraph, what he wants to say in his paragraph before he writes it down. I think that's great. Again, another great way of relationship building. And also building that trust with my student, that he knows that I can draw comfortably, but also retain the information as well. That brings me to my next point of viewpoints, right? How do we address student viewpoints? My student that loves to doodle, as much as I don't want him to doodle, that's how he learns. It's hard to address that. It really is, because how am I going to stop you from learning a certain way? This is how you learn. You learn by drawing. I learn by visuals. I learn by writing things down and practicing what I'm going to say before I say it. He learns by doodles. Another student might learn by just sitting there twiddling their thumbs. That's how they learn. That's how they retain that information. Now, what I will say, the biggest thing about, student viewpoints is the difference between an actual viewpoint and being influenced. The world is a huge influence. The things that we see and do on social media are a huge influence, right? What I don't want, is for us to be so influenced that it molds to who we are. Being influenced doesn't mold who we are. Being influenced just gives us a guide on what may or may not be the outcome of what we see, right? It may or may not be the outcome of what we want to know. It's an influence. It's your viewpoint. But don't get those two confused. A viewpoint is one way. A viewpoint is what you see, and influence is how you act. You shouldn't be influenced on how other people are acting, right? You should be able to be influenced to do what you feel is best. To kind of just conclude some things, one of the Bible verses that I put with this particular project is Romans 12:2. And it says, "Do not conform to the pattern of the world, but be transformed by the renewing of the mind. Then you'll be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will." I have a very strong relationship with God, right? It's my own personal relationship. No one can tell me how to view or to influence, right, my own personal relationship with God, because it's mine. It's my own. I put this Bible verse in here in particular is because, like we just stated before, the difference between a viewpoint and an influence. A viewpoint is what you see, and an influence is how, what you may or may not want it to look like, or how you want it to look like, right? And it's saying, don't conform to the patterns of the world. Don't be influenced by what the world is giving you, right? You should be able to view it in a way that is going to be appropriate for you, and not have an insight or an influence on this is the way you should conform to your life, right? This is the way you should conform to how you do things. I have Bible verses posted all over my classroom. My students ask me all the time, Ms. D, do you pray? Do you believe in God? Do you pray for me, Ms. D? And I'm like, absolutely. I pray for all my students. I pray that, you have a good day. I pray that you make it to school safely. You get to go home safely. I pray that you just, little things that we pray for. And then I have students that don't believe in God. Those students will say, well, Miss D, do you still care about me because I don't believe in who you believe in? I don't, that's their viewpoint, right? Their viewpoint is they don't believe in God. I can't influence them to believe in God. That's not right. That's not, I'm not a big person on pushing my beliefs on other people, because that's how you push that relationship away. My viewpoint on God is my own viewpoint. My own viewpoint. I cannot influence, again, I'm going to say that again, I cannot influence my students to believe in something that they don't believe in. I will encourage, however, my students to believe in what they want to believe in. So if they do believe in God, great. Let's build that relationship together. We can pray together. We can talk about God together. And of course, you have questions about things that I could possibly answer for you, I will do that. But I'm also not going to, I'm going to also, and let me rephrase that. I'm going to also, encourage my students to be a part of the conversations, the ones that don't believe in God. I'm going to encourage you to still be a part of the conversation, because obviously you have questions. I'm not going to steer your questions away. I'm going to encourage you to be a part of the viewpoint. I'm not going to influence you. I'm going to encourage you to be a part of the viewpoint, because you also have a viewpoint too. The importance of all of this is relationship building. That goes back to that trust. How much trust do you have in building a relationship? And if that's a personal relationship with someone, if that's a relationship with God, if that's a relationship with your family or your friends, or even your students, the importance is you build that rapport. You talk, right? Let's go back. You talk about, you gather that information. You gather that information, you take those notes, and then you're able to articulate. You're able to bring together a conversation that dare I say influence, can influence or spark a conversation about anything. And that's really the importance of building those relationships, right? You build those relationships, you build that rapport to continue on the influence, but not the influence of negativity, not the influence of how you should be, but the viewpoint of how you want it to be. So, I thank you all for listening to my TED Talk. And I hope that you all enjoy your day.